is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
And this is game day. Another one. And then another one Friday.
It's great.
And then another one Sunday, but we're not working, so it won't matter.
No. Leafs aren't working much either. They're taking days off, practices off.
Well, they're like, it's almost like baseball where you almost play every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you just kind of gear up on game days, and the other day you just take a knee, rest. Get
Exactly.
ready. We don't rest. We don't ever rest.
Never. And we're not resting for the next 2 hours because we got a terrific show for you. Steve Valiquette will be joining us in about 20 minutes, analyst for the New York Rangers. He'll break down a much more interesting game tonight.
Hold on. Then what? You call my Islanders uninteresting?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
That seems fair.
Which they had a good period.
They have good 15 minutes.
Good 15 minutes.
Doesn't carry you very
But
long.
I think the
this league.
Rangers will be a little better tonight as a challenge. And Rangers have been an ongoing challenge for the Toronto Maple Leafs for various reasons. And one biggest one, Shesterkin.
Yeah. I mean, that guy has been a world beater last year and pretty good decor in front of him, too. So that's the task. Get to that man.
Kristen Shilton, NHL reporter for ESPN, will also be around probably about 40 minutes in. And then Mark Recchi in the second hour, three-time Stanley Cup champion. He's going to come on, and he wrote a terrific article on what maybe the challenges for Rick Tocchet will be in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Debut last night against Chicago.
Got that new coach bump.
Now, did they boo him a little bit?
Yes, is the answer to that. How do you boo a new coach? He didn't fire anyone. That's, to me, that's one of you see someone booing, you go, what are you doing? Who you booing?
I know.
Boo this man!
No, don't boo. That's actual game audio.
They're just generally unpleased. And Vancouver seems like kind of a mentality there.
And it's going to take a while here, I think, to turn it around. That was the voice of Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, Jen Rolnick, all along for the ride. My buddy, Derek Brandeo, always, I think maybe, I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but on game days, he seems to have more food on his desk.
He's got the game
And
day
today,
snacks.
I'm looking at this bag, and he's got, like, cookies, and, like, this one has, like, double whiskey in it.
I know. He told me, he's like, sorry, I brought whiskey cookies. I was like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but you're an alcoholic, so you, you can't have one.
I don't think I should be having
Should
a
I
whiskey
get this
cookie.
cookie out of the studio?
You know, it doesn't bother me any. And the alcohol's burned off.
Is it?
How many whiskey cookies would you have to eat to get a buzz?
I don't know.
I'm about to find out, boys.
But I don't want to ruin your life because of a cookie.
Can you imagine? Oh, it's the whiskey cookies. My wife's just in shambles.
Yes.
You'll be okay.
You've worked so hard.
It's not like peanut butter.
And you got
I
a
can
terrific
have it near me and be okay.
You got a terrific book coming out in like 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
This would be a very bad time for me.
Oh
to
my God.
relapse. So
Falling off the wagon because Derek Brandeo brought Aunt Beth's cookies.
He's in shambles right now. At the
Yes.
implication. All good.
You may
buddy.
have to
It's
get the
very
bag
kind.
out. What is it? Like, let's plug them. I don't care. Aunt Beth's cookies. What is it?
Yeah, a place I've never gotten cookies from before.
All right.
Wow.
And like, does Aunt Beth have the smallest hands ever? Because I had to get Derek to get me a cookie out of that. I couldn't get my hand in the bag. Come on.
Get
Aunt
your hand
Beth.
into the cookie jar, buddy.
It's on purpose.
All
by
right.
design.
It is a snowstorm today in Toronto.
Ooh.
It's a it feels like it's once a year these days that you get a big one, but it's a big one today. It's a whiteout.
It is.
It's a whiteout.
love it.
Me
And
too.
I'm
We haven't had one
scheduled to
yet.
go to the game tonight.
Oh, you're
I'm
pulling
covering the
shit.
game. I'm here till 1 a.m. tonight.
You are.
Yeah. In my little V-dub Jetta.
So past the Leafs and Rangers, you also have Vancouver tonight?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's
They're
okay.
Do they know that
I
this
just wrote
could,
an article, too. It's on Sportsnet.
this could affect your energy tomorrow on our show?
Oh, good chance.
Do I have to talk to anybody about that?
We have 6 guests tomorrow.
Multi-platform beast, Barney. Just right.
Wednesdays are busy days.
Radio, TV.
Yes.
What can he do?
He's hot right now.
Matthews mic'd up tonight for TNT.
Really?
Yep. Him and Barclay Goodrow are the two guys that are mic'd up tonight for the opposing teams.
And is he coming on our show tomorrow, or Matthews?
Oh, yeah. Let me just dig into that for you.
And, and who do you guys have mic'd up tonight?
Me.
Why do they kiss the ass for TNT and they just like look at you guys like you got three heads?
Listen, I saw Edzo in here beside me yesterday. I tell you which guy I'd be kissing up to between the two of us.
Yeah, make sure, hey, if you haven't listened to that, if you're listening to this show and you haven't listened to that, it's a pretty evergreen conversation. You can go back and listen to it anytime. Edzo in studio yesterday was spectacular. So go to Spotify, iTunes, go back and check out that because that was awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of cookies, the Leafs are going to have to need a few tonight because it does appear that Shesterkin's feeling a lot better these days. This is a team that's Shesterkin's kind of owned them for the last little while.
Yeah.
It just seems every time the Leafs are up against this guy, he comes up with a gem.
Or you and I went to the game last year where he was unbelievable against the Leafs. In the last 10 times the Leafs have played the Rangers, they've only won 3. I think they're 1-3-1 in the last 5 against the Rangers. So they've had their hands full with this group. They defend well. They've got some elite talent, good goaltending. I mean, the Rangers have underachieved so far this year. I still think they're a team that can threaten for the Stanley Cup this year.
And it appears that the lines are locked in again. Matthews, Marner, Tavares.
We back.
Nylander, who's looking to become the 6th player from the 2014 NHL draft to reach 400 points.
Wow.
Kind of impressive. Let's go to Sheldon Keefe on sticking with his lines.
Keeping it the way that I had for the last couple of months, it's a lot longer than I had expected it to. To me, Matthews and Marner work really well together, and I always saw it going back to that. But it was going well for us as a team. It was going well for all of them as individuals, so there was no real need to switch it. I think here of late, things have not gone as well, for both groups. The individual players have maybe had some moments of greatness, but to me, the groups haven't really gone as well. And then when you just make a switch and both groups really hit, I think it's just natural to just stay with it. But the fact that for such a long period of time it worked the other way gives me confidence to flip it back if I need to, and work within that.
All right.
Okay, why is he's going on forever and ever and ever? Listen, I can sum up what he just said in like 5 seconds.
Okay, let's have it.
I'm playing 18 holes and I only got like 2 sticks in my bag.
You're going to use them both. Yeah.
I got one called Marner and Matthews.
Yeah.
And I got another one called Tavares and Nylander, and I can switch them.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
And that's it. You're right. And so I think it was inevitable we would get back to this. I think he probably makes the change to get Matthews and Marner back together. Then Willie and JT put up 4 points in a period, and he's like, yeah, them too. I meant to do that part. I don't know. There's just not that many options in terms of how to move those guys around. So there you go. They're back at it, Matthews and Marner, the dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Batman and Batman.
Just to go back to Shesterkin against the Leafs.
Yeah.
He's played 5 games against the Leafs. He's won 4 of them. He's got a .938 save percentage and a .199 goals against. So you were correct. Ownership. He owns the Leafs.
Papers.
Yeah.
Okay. I got some work to do here.
And that's where I'll look at Tavares and Nylander tonight, and this is the game that I want to see what we saw against the Islanders.
For sure. What's interesting is the Leafs, one of the ways that they don't give up a ton of goals is they have the puck a lot, right? They're a good possession team. The Rangers are the number 1 puck possession team in the NHL in terms of time of offensive puck time. Imagine I said that good.
Hold on. I think it's the cookie talking.
Let me write that down. Offensive puck time. Okay, I wrote that down.
You know what I mean? They have the puck all the time. So if the Leafs don't get to be the team with the puck, controlling the play, it's a lot more pressure on their D. Yada, yada. I think that's going to be a story of the game. Can they end the Rangers cycle and get it going and play in the Rangers' end?
And you mentioned Tavares and Nylander there, Kyper.
You got some numbers for us?
No. I was just going to say that I think you said how fast that Tavares looked against a sluggish D-core for the Islanders.
Yeah.
little bit of different kettle of fish tonight with the Rangers.
Well, chasing around Adam Fox and Keandre Miller.
A little bit more fleet of foot,
Yes.
rangy, faster guys on the decor. So I think it's going to be a good challenge.
Yeah, and I do believe that the gap that we saw against the Islanders will be a lot tighter with the likes of Trouba and Keandre Miller. Like that gap. That
distance between the forwards and D and the Islanders
that we talked about the other day, where you're watching 110-foot passes up and turning them into goals. That won't be there tonight. At least I don't anticipate it. The gap control would be much tighter against the Rangers tonight.
It's interesting because you think about when they put Nylander at center, and then the next day Keefe basically he moved him back, and he said, one of Willie's strengths is that he's the first guy out of the zone, right? And he stretches out the D and pulls him back. I wonder if his style of offense only works against certain teams. Not only works, he's good pretty consistently, but, going into playoffs, it's going to matter who the matchup is. I think you'll see matchups where Willie is awesome because it works against this team, and somewhere it doesn't because it doesn't work against that team.
And
Tampa is pretty good.
Again, Nylander's taking his game to another level, so it shouldn't be that obvious to you that his game's gone to another level. You should make the adjustments where you can still find ways to excel, if not dominate, with your talent. Yeah. That's the difference between Nylander this year and what we've seen in the past, is that you've gone to another level here. You should not be able to look back and say, well, it's just not a great fit for me against those guys.
Yeah, it's a great point. The elite players, it doesn't really matter who you're up against. You find a different way. And I'd say Willie's made some strides. I wrote an article on him last week. Last year, he was 106th in the league in inner slot shots, like shots from right in front of the net. This year, he's 25th. So he's getting to that part of the rink more against, teams that try to keep him out of there. Bigger, stronger, more confidence to cut in. Yeah,
and we saw that on his brilliant goal off of Tavares' pass against the Islanders.
The OT winner against Florida. So I assume they were out there for morning skate, working hard, preparing for tonight's game. Whole team out there doing a big practice today. Was that right, Sam?
Yes. And then one of the reporters asked, he's like, pretty lightly attended morning skate this morning. And then I just thought it was a little bit different pace, different kind of answer that Keefe gave. You guys want to hear it?
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's been, we had a shorter practice yesterday. We do want to keep the intensity high and such, but yeah, it's usually a pretty good indicator of where the guys are at in terms of energy levels and such. And we are in an every other day type of rhythm here, and we're trying to be mindful of that. The break is approaching, so that's a good thing that the guys can see on the horizon here. Yet you still want to make sure you're not just saying, hey, let's empty the tank all the way through here, and then the break we can recover for. We still have to be smart in terms of how we're managing this. So we'll take tomorrow off as a group to get ready for the rest of the week from there. But I'm glad that the players in the morning skates like this, you really want to put it on them in terms of what they need to have themselves ready to play tonight. We use the term a lot that morning skate is optional and the game is mandatory.
And that's a big break coming up. So just to touch on after tonight, it's the Ottawa Senators Friday.
Correct.
It's the Washington Capitals on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then one final game in the first week in February.
Against the Bruins on Wednesday night.
The Bruins. Yeah, let's not make sure that they're not ahead of themselves and already in the Bahamas
That's
that
too
night.
bad. I hate that there's like a distraction on the other end of that game. You'd love for that to be... I guess you can go all in on it knowing you get some rest after that.
I think if you can't get locked in for that game on home ice, regardless of what tropical vacation awaits you, I think it'd be a big problem.
You get more pictures of Mitch Marner and Justin Hall on a PJ somewhere,
probably
3 hours after the game.
Yeah, going golfing or something.
Yeah, it's there. You'll know it's there. How much of a professional are you now to just lock it in for a hopefully 60 minutes? A regulation win would be awfully nice, but that is a very long break for them.
It is. What were your thoughts on Keefe talking about guys resting. And I know it's a major difference from your era when you played and even when I played, the focus on rest for these guys. And I know, having worked with Sheldon, he's always trying to design his practice. It's 29 minutes. He's like, we can't add anything else. We don't want to go over that. And the meeting is 7 minutes and we got to keep it under 5 or we'll lose the guys. Shorter, less practice time. What are your thoughts on that evolution?
I think it's a smart.
Yeah, I do.
I think it's smart for sure.
Yeah.
And
it's a long year if every day you're going out there and bagging
rest, nutrition, all of that. And I do buy into a science around it for sure. But really comes down to still how your comfort zone on liking your team, knowing that they're in a good place. Like, all bets are off when you lose, right?
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And it's an easier process to think that there's a beginning, middle, and end to the method of the madness. But when you're losing, all bets are off.
It's
including listening to a sleep doctor.
And like, you're already losing games, and then your coach is like, well, you're not getting the day off. We got work to do. And so it's more time stuck wallowing in the mud and figuring it out. It really is a terrible cycle. But it is funny now. You think about it, hockey players are not all Harvard educated guys. A lot of these guys went straight from high school to junior hockey to get their attention to focus and learn.
We're like cattle.
I know.
Okay. Sheep. We just follow the herd.
Tell me what we're doing. So there are days where you're like, today's a learning day. Like, or you got to tell them the day before, guys, tomorrow is going to be an hour on the ice. You got to bring your thinking hats, caps, whatever. And we're gonna walk through a rotation in the D zone.
When we used to, when there were no charters, we'd all race through airports, and there'd be and you can tell no matter how busy it is, when there's 15 guys at 6'2", and you're all tight together. People are looking around, staring at you.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, I just go.
They just shuffle you around.
And it would work.
Your itinerary, where are we going?
Was that your cow?
It was my cow.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then there would just be a part. Let's hear your best cow. That sucks.
I don't got it.
I thought you were doing an alarm.
It's a cookie alarm. Samsonov tonight, guys. What kind of statement can he make against an all-star like Shesterkin? Playing him.
Feels like he's got a lot to lose now every game, which is not necessarily what you want. Do you think? Now he's established himself as a starter, and the next trip up,
he could lose tonight by a goal and still make progress.
Okay, so
I do believe that.
They lose 2-1 in OT, and he plays great.
Yeah,
still fine.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair.
I like the idea of him getting in more big games, more big moments where the pressure is going to be on. You don't want him getting all the cake games, then all of a sudden it's game 1, and you're in Tampa Bay. It's okay. So, I like the idea if he's going to be the guy, give him some tough matchups.
All right, let's listen to Sheldon Keefe talk about his number one starter tonight.
Yeah, I think it's just the process, that they go through in terms of, the plan that you want to see the goalie play with. And obviously Curtis is a lot more dialed into that than I am. But as we go through it in terms of what the expectations are, and he's showing me clips of things, sometimes maybe even when the puck doesn't even get to the net, but it's just if it got to the net, that he's in perfect positioning and his depth is right. He's tracking the puck well. He's reading the play well. All those sorts of things that don't necessarily show up on saves all the time, but just that he's ready and he's focused. And sometimes it's even more important because it fuels the big saves and everything, that your process is right. So if the puck's not coming, maybe you're not getting a lot of shots, you're not getting a lot of chances, but your process is really focused and very sharp, that when the chance comes, you're just going to take care of it and make it look easy. I think that's what we've seen from him as he's gotten into rhythm here, and that's of course encouraged us to keep him going.
Did you get any sense when you worked with Sheldon with the Marlies, what his overall feel for goaltenders was? And
really eager to defer. and just say,
Really? Didn't suggest that I love this guy because he's quieter or a lot more technical. Or
we had Garrett Sparks. Yes, he was.
Right?
Yeah, Antoine Bibeau was quiet, and yes, you'd have loved to have the quiet guy, have success. And I don't know. There's certainly a personality element in any decision. I would say that is an element that certainly there is some. Okay, we would like for this guy to have success, but generally didn't make the decision.
So I'm gonna give you another animal sound in about a minute. But like
barnyard day,
hanging out and playing with Glenn Healy, right?
Yeah.
Every time he'd critique a goaltender, it would always be like, nice and quiet and tight, and he's like, no, and goes, like he was a seal. That's how he would describe a goaltender.
What?
Playing like a seal, just flopping all over the place.
Okay, yeah. It's a
I'm
good
like,
seal.
yeah, you like
I'm
that
not even
goalie?
going to
He goes,
attempt that
nope.
seal. I will say typically when goalies struggle, they're on their belly a lot. So I get the
Yes.
seal analogy.
Who do you think Sheldon thinks will be there for him?
So I've heard him twice now. I just said Sheldon likes to defer. I've heard him twice now reference Curtis Sanford and Ilya Samsonov. So Sanford seems to like Samsonov. Sanford is taking pride in the progress of Samsonov. They seem a little bit invested in the evolution of Samsonov's game.
Which gives us a perfect time to segue in a professional goalie analyst.
Oh, thank God, we were dying.
Do not try this at home, folks. Okay, let's welcome in Steve Valiquette, analyst for the New York Rangers on MSG. And we're just trying to pick and choose who we think maybe a guy like Sheldon Keefe, head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, would see starting for him in game one. I don't believe there's a problem in New York, people trying to guess who their goalie is going to be. But when we look at Samsonov, Valley, I look at a guy that I would believe that the Leafs would think is a heck of a lot more talented than Matt Murray, but yet they would look at Matt Murray and go, well, this guy's a lot mentally stronger for maybe a playoff run here. So is it pick your poison in January?
Okay, so no, Kyper, look, I came prepared, boys. I'm not coming on the Kyper and Bourne show shooting blanks. Okay?
What a guy.
I'll tell you what. Here's the first thing. Now, guys, you guys have been on the bench before. You guys know how it works. What does it feel like when you're in a battle, score tied, and your goalie gives up a goal? What does it feel like?
Yeah.
Heartbreak.
Feels like crap.
Yeah.
Heartbreak. We've been battling this hard, and that goes in now.
Yes.
We've got twice going the other way.
We got no chance. We got no chance with goaltending like that.
And then what does it do to you? It kills your demeanor. And if it happens often enough, that's when it becomes a theme. And the only predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Right now, Matt Murray has the fourth worst, and I'm talking worst, save percentage when the score is tied on the scoring chances that he faces.
Ooh.
All right? On the flip side of that, Samsonov is right at the top. He's right at the top. One of the league's best. When the game, to me, there's a different – I want to bring you inside the skates of a goalie. There is a different sense of game and responsibility at score tied than making a save when you're down 2 or when you're up by 2 or 3 when you're relaxed and in the rhythm of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you can go back to past experiences in playoffs and what Murray did in Pittsburgh, but there's already enough evidence right now because we're so far in that he's not making the saves that you need when you're tied. Pay attention to this. See how he does from this point forward. So far, he's been the fourth worst in the league at giving you a save at score tied. And that matters. There's a lot of pressure, and it's a different pressure on the mindset of a goalie at score tied.
That's interesting. Valley, we saw Matt Murray the other day wearing glasses at practice. They're working on something that maybe you know more about than I don't, some sort of, using the middle of your eye. So you got to turn your head all the way, kind of a blinders type situation. What does it make you think or feel when you hear about a starting goaltender, at the driving range with gadgets trying to figure out his swing before he heads out for Sunday of the Masters?
All right, Bourne, you guys know I'm up to speed on your show, and I know you've had this conversation.
We have. We get to ask someone who knows about it.
With blanks, boys. All right, so this is interesting. This started in 2012. So can you imagine having this conversation 10 years ago, right? This is not new. It's not new. It's not. It's actually Lyle Mast really popularized this, and he's from out east, and he's worked with a lot of really good goalies like Jari and Comrie, and these guys were guys that I was actually tracking for that draft, and I was working for the Islanders at the time, Bourne. And these were the guys that I had called on, and they were all working with the same guy out west, and it turned out to be Lyle Mast. He's a great goalie coach out there.
Yep.
And Swivel Vision was very popular. These guys were already using it, and this is 10, 11 years ago. So fast forward a little bit, and I find myself in summer camp with Devin Dubnyk. He was down and out at the time. He was in Hamilton and Montreal and was looking for a spot in Arizona. And we started using these Swivel Vision and started getting the concept of head trajectory and tracking. And I even once saw, Kyper, you were doing a piece on Hockey Night in Canada during the intermission on this. Do you remember that? It was like 10 years ago.
With the dark glasses?
Not with the glasses, but you were in the net and you were talking about tracking.
Yes, that's right.
Remember that?
Yeah, Kelly Rudy.
Kelly Rudy.
Yes.
Right. So this is where that conversation came from. It was that guy. It was, once again, Lyle Mast. That's where this stuff came from. And I'll never forget the way that Devin Dubnyk explained it to me, because he was, getting through it in training and using it in practice. It really turned his career around. He said to me, Valley, if I could explain it like this, it locks your eyes in your sockets. And if you understand, the only way that you can see the puck is if you move your head to do so. So it's interesting because you actually have to, if a rebound goes to the goalie's left, you want their head to come all the way around and get over the leading knee for you to have maximum explosive push. But to do that, you've got to get your head in the right position. You can't see staring straight ahead and then using your eyes just to glance to the left. You need to turn your head to do it. So the way Dubnyk said it to me, which made a lot of sense, is like, I just imagine my eyeballs are stuck in my sockets, and the only way that I can move my body is if I move my head. So that's why Swivel Vision is important. It's also very important for tracking the pass, the release, and the rebound. It's something that around the same time, 2012, I was having one of my young goalies use. He started wearing it on the bus going to his games, and the coach is calling me. He's like, "What's with Strauss? He's wearing these things on the bus. Like, what's going on?" But the kid goes out and plays well. And fast forward, he was the goalie that was starting goalie for the United States last year at the Olympics. Strauss man. Yeah. So like, I've been doing this stuff. I'm up for it, but that one in particular, I'm not about gadgets. I don't even like cones on the ice. But that's the one thing that if a guy can't lock on pass, shot, and rebound, it really does help. It remedies, and it's like a source of therapy.
I'm okay with Murray's dark sunglasses, but the moment I see a cane and a CNI dog, I mean, he's done. He's done. Okay, done. Now, let's just say, let's just guess for 1 second that there are issues that Curtis Sanford has seen with Matt Murray. He wants to use this week to practice, to work on head trajectory, whatever we want to, terms. And now we see Samsonov running with it. My question to you, Steve, is what is sufficient time to allow a goalie to work on something? Is it like, can he do it in 3 days, 5 days, a week before you're comfortable for him to go back in? Because the Leafs have Ottawa on Friday, Washington on Sunday, and then the Boston Bruins Wednesday before they go into a massive break here. How long can a goalie need to correct something?
It's a lot like that movie Money Pit. 2 weeks. Everything's 2 weeks. The plumber will be back in 2 weeks. And it's funny, that comes up a lot, right? When you come back from a long injury, how long does it take? It always takes a couple of weeks. And, I remember having this conversation, this is a name drop here, but Peter Forsberg, I got to spend some time with him in Sweden after I retired with Marcus Naslund and had the same conversation, coming back with his different foot injuries. He's like, man, 2 weeks afterwards, I felt up to speed. I just had to get through 2 weeks. I feel it's the same way to break habits or to gain new ones. So to me, it's that. And that's the hardest thing, fellas, about training a goalie in season. There's always, I remember one of the top guys, I think it was Mitch Coyne, said this to me, where you end up doing about 90% of what the goaltender wants you to do and about 10% of what you should be doing, because you can't really mess and tweak too much. You can't during a season. So a lot of that is oftentimes just really being very careful with what you are changing in season. And that's why I wonder about goalie development. I wonder about player development, because the NHL player development staff, quote unquote, isn't available and allowed to work with you through the summer. And that's the only time you can really break away bad habits.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And obviously, for the team they're playing tonight, makes a big difference for them as the success they've had in their crease. Last year, the Rangers, 110 points. I think there was like a 670 winning percentage. Very good team. This year, behind that pace, a pretty good clip. But coming on of late, do you see a lot more to be excited about the Rangers, feeling like this is a team that still has cup aspirations?
Yeah, you know what, Bourne? I was looking at this earlier today. After 47 games this year, compared to 47 games last year, they've only had one more loss.
Wow.
So they're not really that off. They're off on their OT and shootout points, and they're also off because they've lost 8 games against non-playoff teams. They've just blown 8 games. It's a lot like covering the Leafs. And in a lot of ways, I always wonder about this, fellas. I'm wondering about expectations. Why is it so hard to meet expectations the years after you have success? And that's what the Rangers have gone through. And up until December 5th, man, the playoffs were in doubt. But they've gone on a run since December 5th and played great hockey. But it's a lot about expectations. You guys have watched Drive to Survive, right, on Netflix?
Yes.
Have you seen out right now? It is Breakpoint. They're doing it on the tennis players.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I saw it.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Intense.
Golf one coming out, by the way.
Well, that one's good. Like, see, these are the looks that hockey needs, right? And I know you guys had your thing with the Leafs, but I want to bring this up because Andy Roddick comes out in the first interview, right? And he's one of the main characters. And he's won a lot in his career. He's won a Grand Slam. He's won 32 times. The first thing that comes out of his mouth is the hardest thing to deal with in sports is expectations. It's fun before the expectations begin. And he goes on to say, my feeling is the hardest thing collectively to manage in pro sports is expectations. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, isn't that the truth? Like, that's where it gets hard. And Kyper knows the years in New York where you guys were President's Trophy winning team. You don't make the playoffs. And then you're President's winning. Were you President's Trophy in 94,
yeah.
Kyper, as well?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, so, like, you saw it. What happened in between? You know, the expectations. I guess there was learning there.
Do you know why the real Kyper and Bourne show is so good? Because no one expects anything above our heads right now in the Rogers building.
So true.
Zero.
Low expectations help our show,
the
Valley.
lowest.
Not true. You guys know how I feel.
We're joined by Steve Valiquette, analyst for the New York Rangers, MSG. Specifically, we're talking about a 15-4 and 2 record to speak of since December 5th for the New York Rangers. So, what has worked right? The lines, has he got the right mix now? Trocheck, not a ton of chemistry with Panarin. Is he now finding a fit?
Yeah, no, I'll start with the goalie, and I'll work my way through quickly. Shesterkin, he's right back to where he was last year with the exception of one thing. For whatever reason, he's given up bad goals more often than we saw last year. 8 right now up until this point this year that he's allowed, and he only allowed 8 of all of last season. So if there was one step back for him, it's just been maybe the expectations of being a Vezina guy and carrying that load and burden. Every night when you're the goalie too, guys, when you're the opposing goalie, you know who you're up against. You wouldn't believe how good the goalies have played against the Rangers this year. It seems like every night somebody's the game's first or second, third star. So there's been that bit of a battle, but the team is either 5th or 6th going into tonight's game in goals against, so that's not an issue. The D, this D is awesome. I think this D is terrific. The team D, as far as their 6, Keandre Miller, wait till you see this guy play. What a player.
Yeah.
So good, so dynamic. He's always a threat on the rush. He'll go right up on every play. But the cool thing about this guy is he's so long and he's such a great skater. He always gets back. And one more time, I guess from my perspective, when I was playing, I always hated when the defenseman that never scored on me in practice would be joining the rush in the game. I'd be like, what's this guy going for? That's terrible. You know?
What's the point of this?
he's so easy to stop in practice. He's never going to score, and he's slow getting back. Well,
Yeah.
that's not the case with Yonder. So he's that elite, and Trouba's brought his game around. He's handling the captaincy really well right now. Fox is out of this world. He's not a great skater, but and I don't mean that in a way that I just want to say that he actually outperforms everything that you may see with his head. He's just that good. And so they've got a great group. The third line tonight, it most likely will be Trocheck, Vesey, and Goudreau. And before Kreider was hurt, he was playing there, and that was the best we saw Trocheck go. He right now has the worst shooting percentage in the NHL on his scoring chances. He's had tons of chances. He's performing about 9 goals less than what he should. So he's we'll see how it works for him. He's not really fit with Panarin yet, but they're going to load up the first line, and Zibanejad, Panarin, and Kreider, they're a handful. They'll be really good, and the kid line has been pretty good. They're better together than separated. So the matchup up front, as we know, you guys have the top-heavy team. You guys are the guys with the upper body in the gym, upper body only.
Yeah.
So you guys will be good.
Yeah. And piano legs on defense.
Piano
The
matchup will be good. It'll be a good game.
It will be good. And just last one for me, obviously, really appreciate the breakdown on this team. I mean, I feel well prepared for tonight's game, but there was, some tension with Lafreniere once upon a time here. How have things shaken out with him and his coach and his ice time, and where is he at?
Yeah, I got to be careful in this one, Barney. I've had a few warnings recently.
Oh, okay.
So next question, please.
Okay, no. Well, we will keep an eye on him. That's an answer in itself. We'll take it.
So I should skip whether or not I'm going to ask you whether Gerard Gallant, is still got a long-term future with the New York Rangers, because sometimes it seems like the finger gets pointed at him when things aren't going well, but it just seems to be a good fit right now for everyone.
No, I think that, everything went sideways up until, what it really was? It was just losses. Back to expectations. They lost, fellas, against San Jose, Columbus, Detroit, Anaheim. They lost back-to-back Ottawa, Chicago. And then the team got their collective head out of their ass, and they changed it around, and everything changed. And it came from a comeback. They were down by 3. They ended up winning 6-4, coming back in the third period versus St. Louis. They've been terrific since. A big point of that catalyst, though, is the D. The D, guys. Oh, and Kyper, told you I came prepared. I looked this up. I texted you this. Yeah. And I went to the league, and I wanted to find out because I listened to Off the Rails Fridays with Doug McLean. And one of my favorite segments. And we talked about how Doug brought up on the show 150 points by the D Corps. That's what you need to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Last year, only one team didn't have 150 points from the D. That was the Los Angeles Kings. This year, the Rangers already have 117 points from their D. Wow. They're tracking to well over 200. So if there's as strong as some of the names are up front, it comes from the back end. And Shesterkin almost scored on a one-timer Monday versus Florida. Okay, a one-timer. The puck came at the net. And he went down, didn't stop it. Usually we field it with the glove behind and one knee down. He one-timed it. It went over everybody, and he missed the net by 6 inches at the empty net. It was unbelievable.
NHL first, if that happened.
And Leaf fans are waiting for Morgan Riley to get one.
Oh, I heard that too. Yeah, so at any rate, I thought that stat was neat. Oh, one last thing on the stat. We might have to put the numbers up because 25 of 32 teams last year had at least 150 points from their D.
Wow. I'm literally, as you're talking, counting up the Leafs' total D points right now. I don't think they're there.
We're not close to 100.
No.
Wow.
Okay.
We're going to find that out, though.
Yeah, so Doug McLean was right. Off the Rails is on point.
Good
Don't
to know.
tell him that.
Yeah. Don't worry. Doug's not listening.
No, he's a quiet listener, too.
I believe
for
it.
sure.
I loved his line the last time. Hey, guys, I love listening when I'm on.
That was good.
Hey, Steve, always a pleasure, man.
To you when I'm on.
There you go. We got that one tucked away when we need it. Enjoy the game tonight, okay? It'll be fun. Always a pleasure having you on our show, pal.
All right, fellas, keep it up. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Valley.
Steve Valiquette. What a oh my God, is he ever Fantastic.
If you were going to have guests come on your show regularly, you would play that interview and be like, this is how you prepare to come on. Although we don't pay anyone anything, so I guess you can't lecture them on how to prepare.
Sammy.
That Murray stat stinks.
Sammy's been sitting on that for 20 minutes.
That's the number one thing that kills a team.
96 points from
When
their
it
D.
matters.
That's the number one thing that kills you. Tie game, battling, and your goalie lets one in. How often does that kill a team?
And everyone just goes, ugh.
Lets it out, then the next one goes in, you're down 2. Like, it happens. That's happened a million times in the game of hockey.
Okay, so we're going to go to break, and you're going to count up how far the Leafs are to that magic number.
Derek Brandeo.
You just said it.
96 points from the
What do they
Leafs
have?
D.
Under 100?
96.
96.
That's, can I be honest? Way more than I thought.
You know why
me
it's way
too.
more?
Me too.
Mark Giordano has a quiet 17. Timmins has a dozen.
Yeah, it's
You know,
true.
like
So
What's Hall have? 1?
Hall has 12 points.
150 should be fine. They should be okay.
Yeah, they'll get there. Sure.
And Morgan's got to go through a stretch when he starts getting some bounces. No?
Just 0 goals. He's on the first power play unit. Yes.
He's got.
Yes, he's going to get a bounce now.
Something's
Yes.
going in.
I think I might put a couple bucks on a Morgan Riley goal tonight.
Not a bad time to
Hey.
bet Riley to score until it happens.
Good.
You can go 10 straight games and still come out ahead.
Okay, let's go to the break here. Kristen Shilton's going to be joining us, NHL reporter. We'll talk a little Willie Nylander and what he might be looking at come July 1st on a
boy.
new contract.
Not this again.
Not just me,
All right. Let's do it.
Kristen. That and more after the break, including Mark Recchi in the second hour. Plenty more to chew on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show.
Wheel, Kyper, and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Leafs and the Rangers tonight, Wednesday night hockey. You'll be on
night.
Wednesday night Scotiabank hockey.
Yes, sir. I know. You look as surprised as
Now-
my family.
Yeah. Kind of ticked off that they didn't promote you on this social media. Who else is on the show?
Carolyn Cameron, Jamal Myers, and Anthony Stewart.
Yeah, I knew that. You know how I knew that? It was in the promo that they
Hey.
tweeted out.
Thanks for having my back on that. Thank you.
And no, you're nowhere to be found. That's
I'm,
just some serious disrespect for my boy.
Yeah, get him fired up.
Next topic.
Oh, by the way, okay, we're going to get to Kristen, but I just want to say at the break, I had one of those Aunt Beth cookies. Oh, my God.
Well, listen, I'm over here eating peanut M&Ms trying to make up for it.
It was unbelievable. And I don't care if Aunt Beth has hands like a Muppet. I mean, it was fantastic. Seriously, that's the smallest bag I've ever seen. If we could
All
just
right, get it on the rails here, will you?
All right. It's not Friday. Let's get it back on the rails. Kristen, I'm so sorry.
I really enjoyed all of what I just heard. So thank you for entertaining me for the last 90 seconds.
Kristen Shilton is joining us, NHL reporter for ESPN, does a terrific job. And I don't know why she agrees to come on our show, but we
grateful she does.
we thank you for that. Maybe it's a charity feel for you, but whatever the case is, we're glad you're aboard. So just want to start off because I did mention it going to break, Willie Nylander and the season that he's having. And it's still a little quiet, but, you know, with so much focus right from probably the off season on Austin Matthews, has he kind of quietly come under the radar here with a great year and knowing that he's eligible to renegotiate July 1st?
Yeah, you know, I think Nylander is having an incredible season for a lot of reasons, but you know, we didn't talk as much about him going into this year just because I think the incredible times 10 season that Matthews had last year just really dominated the conversation around Toronto's forwards. And you're seeing Mitch Marner, I think, even under the radar. You're seeing William Nylander flying under the radar a bit. And obviously there is, you know, those financial elements coming up, especially for Nylander. And of course, his contract has been this constant source of debate and conversation. Is he overpaid? Is he underpaid? Is he, you know, has his contract, you know, somehow hamstrung the Leafs and not being able to make other moves. So I'm sure he takes a lot of pride just in his individual game, but there's also got to be that little side of him right now that's like, yeah, you know, when we go back to the negotiating table, you know, if you thought before that, you know, the deal that he got was big, you know, you'd have to think he's going to be looking for a raise as well based on how well this season has gone. And when you really think about the adaptability of the Leafs top six as well, just look at, you know, Sheldon Keefe being able to go back to Matthews and Marner. It's because of Nylander, and because he's playing so well, you don't have to worry that the second line is going to suffer without Matthews or Marner on it. And that's a huge, huge thing when you can, you know, make up for that problem that they've had in the past just because of how good Nylander is. So on every level, this has been just a great campaign so far for him.
Kristen, here at Sportsnet last year, preparing for the trade deadline, they came to me and asked me to do some feature videos on some of the bigger names, and that included Andrew Kopp and Nick Paul. This year, it feels like there's some bigger names available out there, whether it's O'Reilly or Tarasenko, you know, Bo Horvat. Does it seem like this year there is an inordinate amount of huge names who could change teams? Are you hearing a lot of action this year?
You know, there's a lot of names, but there really doesn't, from the conversations that I've had at this point, the action has not been engaged at this point, and I don't think that's surprising. It's still a flat cap world. There's still teams that want to see what happens over the next month or so before they potentially go after a really highly prized or a very, you know, top end rental. And in a lot of these cases, these would be rental pieces. They're players that have had a lot of success in the league. They're veterans who will, you know, hopefully if you're them, they're looking for a place that they can land and have some playoff success this year that also allows them to showcase their talents and potentially work that into a new contract, what could be the last big contract of their careers. So there's multiple layers, I feel like, to the trade deadline this year, just in terms of what, when you look at some of those teams at the top, like if you're looking at a Bruins or a Carolina or a Toronto, how much are you willing to invest in what could potentially just be a rental piece? And B, how soon do you want to go after those players? If you're Toronto, for example, I would think you would want to get whatever trade work that you had in mind done kind of early, because you would want that player to get into, the system as quickly as possible and actually be able to have an impact, as opposed to waiting until March. And then, you try to pick up one of these big names that you mentioned, and it takes time. Like even, the most professional veteran, I mean, you come into a new room, you're learning a new system, it takes time. So I do think that there is a maybe disproportionate number of bigger names out there, but I don't know yet if that will translate into a larger number of actual trades that happen, or if there will be a lot of movement, A, because of salary cap, B, just some of those top teams that might target those rentals. You have to balance, do I want to go all in and go after the Bo Horvat, for example, or the Ryan O'Reilly, or do I like what I have? Is the chemistry good? Do I not want to mess with that? It's a balancing act, and I do think that the cap will continue to have an effect on how aggressive some of these teams want to be, but I am as curious as anyone to see when they're going to shift into a bit more of a buy kind of mindset, because that's always the most fun.
We're joined by Kristen Shilton, who does terrific work for ESPN. And Kristen, you're absolutely right. That flat cap is coming into play here with all these names. And, come March 3rd, you could see a lot more supply than demand based on a few things. The Boston Bruins, do you find them intriguing here when you are up historically against the top teams in history over the course of a regular season? What are the odds of them making a major change to what seems to be like perfect chemistry?
I just was actually having that conversation the other day about what is the right, and I just talk about balancing act, but what is the right formula when you're as good as Boston is right now, when it feels like up front they've got the depth that they wanted, on the back end they've got unheralded defensemen having great seasons. They have a terrific goaltending tandem. Jim Montgomery has been absolutely excellent, sliding behind the bench. Everything is kind of in place for Boston. So when you think about, some of the comments that Don Sweeney made most recently, just saying, you want to be aggressive. You want to add if you need to. But what does that aggressive look like? And how aggressive are the Bruins going to be willing to go? Are they going to target like a top end piece? Are they going to give up, whatever asset they would have to, because they feel so strongly about trying to win one more for Bergeron and trying to win one more for Krejci and those guys that have given them so much over the years? Is that the right play? And you just have to be so careful, because in order to, if you're Boston, yes, you don't want to disrupt the chemistry. You don't want to bring somebody into that room or into that lineup that changes what's made them so successful. But then you don't want to look back with regret and think, we didn't get out of the second round, or we didn't, we lost in the conference final. And would it have been different if we just targeted that one guy that could have made our top six that much better? There's always those conversations that you're going to have. And it comes down to, I think, just trusting your team and trusting, if they can manage having someone else come in. And you have to be confident in who that player is going to be. Because I don't think that based on their cap situation and what they have in the pipeline, that they would want to, potentially damage themselves in the near future with a contract that they can't carry. But at the same time, Boston this feels like such a huge opportunity for them. You don't want to be Tampa, that team that is so good in the regular season and then just, flops in the first round like they did in 2019. You don't want that to be what's coming, and you want to safeguard against that at the trade deadline if you can. But I don't know. I just think I look at Boston and I'm like, I have no notes. I maybe a bottom six winger, maybe Ivan Barbashev, but I don't think that you need a top player or another top player, I should say, in order to really find the success that they're projected to have going into the eventual postseason here.
Kristen, well, looking around, that's the successful end of the NHL. The other end is the Vancouver Canucks and what they've just been going through with replacing a head coach. Fun to get everyone's take on this. Why do you think, what are you hearing about why it all went down so messily? Why was this such a disastrous situation for Vancouver, the front office, the fans, and all involved?
I think that there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen in Vancouver, and when you've got a lot of strong voices, you've got a lot of executives with experience. I think everybody kind of wants to be heard. Everybody wants their opinion involved. And when that happens, you kind of can see that result where it comes out disjointed and it comes out like we weren't all on the same page about what was happening. And there wasn't a sort of linear, maybe enough chain of command there to say, like, here's who's going to make the decision, and here's the decision that's going to be made, and here's when we're going to do it. And this is not something that's going to go on and on, because it didn't feel like a streamlined process. It felt like everyone had to put their opinion in and have their say and try to, fix a problem that didn't really need to be a problem. Because if Jim Rutherford was coming in and there was going to be a sort of changing of the guard in the Canucks front office, then if at that point they knew, and it sounds like that could have been the case, that they knew that Bruce Boudreau was not going to be the guy, then that decision needs to be made. Like, it needs to be made, it needs to be wrapped up, and you need to move on from it. Because what happened in the end is you just put two really good coaches in bad positions, whether it's Tocchet coming in to this whirlwind of bad PR, or it's Boudreau who's leaving in the most. It didn't have to be that way. And I think if you had to boil it down, it was just a lot of different voices and opinions and people trying to line up, the right way to go about it. And it just ended up being a total mess, because if you're not on the same page and you're not willing to make that hard decision at the time it needs to be made, it just drags on, and there's never a good time. And that's the thing. It's like in any breakup, in any relationship, it's really easy to just, everybody keeps pretending everything's fine until at some point you're like, oh, hey, it's over and it's awkward and no one's happy. And it just didn't need to be that way. So that's, kind of my read on it. I think Jim Rutherford's comments saying that, I'm just not going to talk at all anymore, probably speaks to that same feeling of they just need one voice. They need one voice. They need one, streamlined communication pathway. And if nothing else, you just hope that Vancouver kind of learned a lesson here, and also maybe other teams as well.
Kristen, you've been around long enough to maybe kind of know that Vancouver market. And is it as simple as Jimmy Rutherford saying a few words like that? Or is there a chance that this vibe won't die down anytime soon for Rutherford or Tocchet? How do you see this playing out in the next few weeks or right to the deadline?
It all comes down, I think, to what happens on the ice, because it's just, winning can mask everything. That's the thing, is that if you can get some momentum going, if you can, if Tocchet can breathe some life into this team and you see them have a little bit more success, and I think that kind of covers all manner of ill, is that if Tocchet can get the most out of some of these players that maybe the fan base have seen as disappointing or underperforming, or just players that maybe haven't been giving enough, if you can just get everybody on a better page, it just comes back to that. It's on the same page, but it's just start a new chapter. And at that point, the front office stuff kind of fades into the background. There's going to be something that happens with Bo Horvat here at some point. Will there be other trades? I guess we'll see. But for right now, just focus on winning and focus on giving your team your fan base and your players and the whole organization just something to feel good about. And I think that's where all of those they've talked the talk, they've made their explanations, and they've had the conversations. And so now it's just time to just play hockey. And I think that's where, the players find their reprieve, obviously, in the game. And it's where the fan base wants to see the improvements. That's why the change was made. It was a hockey decision, according to everyone, that this was going to be, a way for the Canucks to improve. That's I think all anybody wants to see, is that it was worth it to move, to talk it the way that they did, and to make the change because they believe in what the results are going to be because of it. And I would just think that should be the focus that Vancouver has. Make some good decisions at the trade deadline, even if that's a seller mentality, and try to regroup whatever, sort of goodwill you can from this season based on how you play on the ice.
Kristen, always a pleasure having you on the show, and you're so generous with your time. I'm going to have Derek Brandeu mail you an Aunt Beth's cookie.
I can't wait. You made them sound so good. Thanks so much
Thanks,
for having
Kristen.
me,
We
guys.
appreciate it.
Kristen Shilton, ESPN.
I was going to ask you something here.
Yeah.
The GM of the St. Louis Blues is Doug Armstrong, and the GM of the, you can go through the teams. You know who. Now you got the Montreal Canadiens, who have Jeff Gorton as the president, right? Or director of hockey ops, or whatever his title is. And then Ken Hughes is the GM. And in Vancouver, Rutherford is doing all this. Then Patrick Allvin's kind of the GM. What is the deal with the changing structure? Do you see the NHL going to this more, where there's it feels like they have the power, the presidents here, to make the decisions, and then the GM again, like Allvin is
look no further than the Toronto Raptors here, with Masai Ujiri as the president and Bobby Webster as the GM. But everyone refers to Masai as the guy who runs it,
right, and makes the decisions.
But Bobby Webster is the GM. It's a weird dynamic.
There's just one boss. There's one guy in charge.
Right.
And it's Messiah here in basketball, and it's Jimmy Rutherford in Vancouver. And ultimately, you assume that Gorton is the guy in charge in Montreal, but
doesn't speak French, so they made him the president?
No, well, I mean, let's just set that aside for a second. Right. Is that you have to have your idea of what kind of structure you want, and you have to empower people around you.
I agree with that.
And right now, Allvin's not empowered.
No.
Neither is
Hughes.
No, Hughes is.
Oh, okay.
No, Hughes is. But I was just going to say they've got assistant general managers in Vancouver, Cammy Granato and
Emily Castonguay.
Castonguay.
Yeah.
Not empowered. So it's all in what the boundaries that your president sets. Jimmy is making phone calls. Jimmy is doing deals. Jimmy decides.
Is this a Seinfeld episode?
I was just about to say.
Much, right?
Jimmy makes trades.
Jimmy makes trades.
Pure Dorian does what Pure Dorian does.
That's right.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Ken Hughes makes calls.
He does.
Jeff Gordon's not the guy.
Great.
And that's where you're empowered.
Yeah.
Now,
weird situation when you come in as a first-time GM, say,
now,
sure, call me a GM.
At the end of the day, it might still be a little frustrating for other teams, depending on who's making the calls for them, to say, okay, we've presented you something, and then I don't know in terms of how much empowerment is involved for Ken Hughes to say, yeah, we're going to do this deal, and I've got the authority to do it.
Well, you hate the idea, let me just ask mom and dad if I can make that
that's
trade.
just it. Are you just dealing with a runner right now?
Right.
Because it's going to get to crunch time March 3rd, and teams are not going to have the patience to watch you run back and forth with a little note like you're in grade 6.
Right. Let me talk to the person who makes the decisions.
I really like her. Can you pass me this note?
Can I talk to the manager? The actual manager?
So how much of that happens here with Kyle and Shannon?
You will have to be in a position to get deals done quickly, possibly on trade deadline day, and just give me the decision maker right now.
I know. And so, Sammy, I don't think at all, until I wonder if this year's different, with Kyle not having a contract beyond this year.
How can it not?
There's no way it can't. There's no way it can. It doesn't affect it.
Well, so what a different situation then if suddenly he goes, yeah, I know I've made all the decisions up till now, but hang on, I don't know if I can move that first until I talk to my, that's different.
I would believe that Kyle cannot do a thing without a stamp of approval from Brendan Shanahan. And if we're talking something of a larger degree, the board.
Really?
Really.
Come on. What do you call
Really.
Larry Tannenbaum and ask him about what he thinks of the stick positioning of Gavrikov?
100%.
By the way, love Larry Tannenbaum.
Okay.
No disrespect.
100%. Okay. You don't think right now Austin Matthews eligible to be signed July 1st? Larry Tannenbaum's not involved in that? Are you crazy?
That's a different
big
thing, though.
business, big dollars.
That's a different
Hey,
thing. That's
so
over
is 2 first-rounders to make a trade.
Kipper, the two first-rounders versus $100 million contract are two very different conversations, in my opinion. No, like if you're talking,
we're talking about deals that could affect making the playoffs in 3 or 4 years, 5 years,
which is millions and millions of dollars. I see your point. 100%.
Are you nuts right now?
I'm not nuts, but I think
100% they want to be involved in the future of their franchise.
Of course,
when you've got a guy that's been in charge the last little while and you can't get out of the first round.
Then I wonder if that would make the guy who's been in charge up till now feel more like, what am I doing here?
I'm sure there's been many nights he's gone to bed asking that question while he would probably behind the scenes still be pushing for an extension. Like, come on, he's got a top 5 team in the NHL right now.
Again,
that seems to be set up to compete. Why wouldn't he be asking for an extension now? Why would I don't want to wait.
Unless he doesn't want to wait. You know what I mean? Because he's not
I don't
sure
believe
about what's
that for
happening
1
here.
second.
Yeah.
Not 1 second. Likes it here.
Yeah.
Family.
That's true.
Kids.
2 young kids in school and stuff.
He's made an emotional investment in the league.
You like the Jews, huh?
Like the Jews. He wants to stick around. He wants his extension yesterday.
He'll only leave if the job at Sault Ste. Marie opens up.
But just to
the other Kyle Raft doesn't want to lead that one.
Just to bring this conversation full circle.
Yep.
I believe that everybody's on board right now going into this trade deadline, the most important one for Kyle and the organization in the last 6 years is what it looks like and what's at risk here.
The more we kick it around, though, the more I wonder what it has looked like the approval process in past years to trade a first for whoever. If it has, in fact, involved higher ups or how much. I'm sure Shanahan has been involved in those things.
I don't believe every single move needs to go and get a stamp of approval from the board of directors.
Right.
But when you're talking about really,
Timo Meier?
Yeah, those are big.
The guy with the $10 million qualifying offer?
Would Kyle at all entertain Erik Karlsson? We're talking about $40+ million left on his deal. Can you get San Jose to eat 50% of it? Would now you look, if you can get San Jose to pick up 50%, it's essentially taking Muzzin's contract off and putting Karlsson's on.
I just am so mind blown every time you bring up this contract. It's just so unkipper.
But that just doesn't begin and end with Kyle Dubas.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big decision that can affect the franchise for 10 years.
Yeah, and I would love to know what those different relationships look like throughout the NHL. You know, like I know Tom Dundon would have some say in what happens in Carolina. I know that for a fact, as do you. You know, I don't know that it's the same in St. Louis or Washington with Brian McClellan or, you know, go around the league at some of the bigger, more powerful GMs. Who do they have to go to, and is it anyone?
Well, you're talking about spending their millions, not your own.
Mr. Leonsis, I would like to spend $50 million of your money. Yeah, you may want to run that by Ted.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
Shoot me a text.
Heads up.
Love
And
it.
then the owner listens to his neighbor or his barber
Yeah.
telling him
And
he's
that's
crazy.
when things get off the rails.
And that's when it's off the rails Friday.
Yeah, it's off the rails
My
seasons.
barber told me that, that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
he's
Ilya
gotta get
Samsonov, he should maybe get a new contract. What do you think?
He's fantastic.
He's having a great year.
7
Yeah,
years.
you're right. I never thought of that. Yeah, we should get Samsonov for 7.
Yeah. Anyways.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Mark Recchi, Stanley Cup champion, is going to come on board and talk a little Rick Tocchet and some of the challenges still facing him, not only for the rest of the year, but maybe the next few.
Yes, sir.
Mark Recchi, Stanley Cup champion. After the break, you're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Always great when we get guests that been around the game a long time, both as a player now. Mark Recchi's been behind the bench as well, and now wrote a terrific article on Rick Tocchet and the challenges that he may face in Vancouver. Let's bring in the wrecking ball now. Rex, how are you?
Hey, good, Nick. Justin, how you guys doing?
We're well. Terrific piece as well. I don't know if you know this, but I'm writing a few articles too.
Bunch of journalists out here.
Yeah, we're giving.
Yeah. Well, I got to give Dan Rosen a little bit of credit, though.
Especially when it comes to spelling and punctuation.
Pretty much so, yeah.
Well, listen, I read it. I really enjoyed it. Certainly, your history with Rick Tocchet shows a lot in this article. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were originally traded for each other, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. 92.
Did you guys like meet in the hallway or now you didn't really get to know him though until you were basically teammates again in the early 2000s?
Well, I actually got to know him not long after we got traded. I went back to Pittsburgh. I was still, Kevin Stevens and the whole crew, and they were all tight. And then they won in '92. And then, I met him, and then, we kind of hit it off right from the get-go, really. So it was, something from there. And then, obviously when you play together, then you get an opportunity to play together years down the line, and it's pretty neat.
So you guys had a relationship, and so you have a fundamental understanding of the man. What should people expect from, what does Rick Tocchet prioritize in a hockey team?
Well, you know what? He's going to communicate. He knows how to communicate with players very well. He's going to be structured. They're going to end up being a real structured team that is hard to play against. And he's going to have a say in what type of players he wants to keep around and what type of players he wants to bring in. And I think that's important for a coach. And I think, with obviously having a relationship with management before, they know Rick well. They know the type of person he is and the type of players he likes. And I think they want to build that identity as a team and the culture. And that's what I think the biggest thing for them is bringing Rick in for that matter.
Mark, you write about player-coach relationship, and particularly how a guy like Tocchet may have to go in there and focus on the core players. I mean, you were one of those guys as well. Speak to that, and maybe, even in your career, which head coach did you find it easiest to build that type of relationship with?
Yeah, he's got to figure out who the guys are in that room that are gonna buy all in with him, and meet them 50-50. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to take some time. There might be some younger guys in the waiting that need to be the guys that are going to step up. Obviously, you got JT Miller. You got Bo Horvat, who are obviously guys who are experienced and leaders in their own right now. And he's going to have to find out what group, that core group, is for him. And I was very fortunate. I had lots of good coaches, that I had great relationships with and communicated very well with. I had Roger Nielsen was one of the, he was one of the better ones. Bob Johnson early in my career. God, I could go down the list. I had a lot of coaches. So, it's great to have that. You need that. And, as a coach, you need to let you need to find those leaders, and and Nick, as well, you need to let those guys lead in the dressing room and take control of the dressing room. You can't micromanage. You have to let that take its part. And, when you get a strong enough room, that can happen.
So what have you seen over the course of your career in the evolution of player-coach relationships? I feel like, my dad played for Al Arbor and used to, basically say that you didn't hear anything. You played on the line you were told and you didn't ask questions, and that was just the way it was. Now, working a little bit with the Marlies, seeing guys come into the room every day and say, well, how come I got taken off the PK? What have you seen in terms of how things have evolved?
That's exactly, you hit it right on the nose. When we, back when, we started and, in the late 80s and 90s, you didn't have a lot of communication with, head coaches and assistant coaches were probably more their buffer than anything. But the head coaches, they were there and they were demanding, and you didn't ask questions. You just did what they asked. And now there's a 50-50 game where you have to work with each other. Like, they want answers. They want to know why you want them to do this. They want to know why you wanted to play this system. They want those answers, and you got to be ready to give them to them. And it's just a different era now, and it's whether it's good or bad or whatever. That's the way it's evolved, and it's somewhere where you just have some say in the room, but you better buy all in if once you get to that relationship.
We're talking to Mark Recchi, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 8th all-time in games played, 1629. Now, for Rick Tocchet, a lot of success in Pittsburgh behind a bench, but gets a little easier when you can look at 87 leading the way in Sid Crosby. Right now, he's got a captain in Bo Horvat, who's having a terrific year, but knows he's on limited time here. Does that make that challenge that you're talking about a little harder on Rick?
It does to a certain extent, yes. But, I think they're both, he's going to have Bo's best interest at heart. And, Bo, I don't know Bo as a person, but, he's got to know that Rick's in his court, and he's going to know that. And so he's going to buy all in until, that day comes, whether he gets traded or not. He's going to buy all in, and I think Rick's going to treat him that way. Rick's going to treat him like he's part of it, and he's part of the group right now, and make him feel like he's the captain, and go from there and see what happens. That's all you can do at this point for Rick, and I think they'll both handle it very well.
So this time of year, don't want to call it quite the dog days yet. Maybe it's a bit of the dog days, but you've been a part of enough teams. You just mentioned the 8th all time in games played. How would a team like the Leafs find motivation right now, Rex? Like, it's just a really tough spot there. They know they're playing Tampa. Is 30 some games to go. I guess that might be a leadership team. How did you keep yourself motivated during times like this?
Yeah, it really is the dog days right now of the time. Fortunately they got a week off. There's these week breaks now, I think, which is going to help teams. Yeah. And it might help a team like the Leafs where they get a little bit of a break, get a little refresh, and they come back and they say, oh man, let's focus on these last 30 games, doing everything right, going into the playoffs on a high note, feeling good about ourselves, and then taking it from there. And hopefully they can make that playoff run from that point.
Rex, today's coach, Mike Sullivan, to me, is one of the top guys. I really enjoy what he's been able to do in Pittsburgh. John Cooper as well. But are there other names out there that you've watched from afar and admired?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I've seen Bednar in Colorado. I know they won, but I just liked how he's managed his team, especially through this right now. He had a lot of injuries early in this year after winning the Cup. I really like what he's done. I like the coach in Minnesota, Dean Evison. I think he's done a terrific job. There's a lot of good coaches out there, and it's not an easy gig. It's a hard gig. It's demanding, but these guys are, they all do a terrific job.
So let me get this straight: the coaches, they don't walk in the room the same time as the players and leave at the same time as the players.
Oh, man. I wish they could say that. You did, jeepers. There's about an extra 8 hours in that day.
Yeah. How about you? You want something full time? You want me to start pushing your name out there?
I'm okay for a little bit.
But
yeah, I might want to get back into management, possibly. Do something like that.
Hey, I've seen your career earnings, man. You are doing just fine. Hey, Rex, thanks for doing this, man. Really appreciate your time as always.
No problem, guys. Great time. Have a great night.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Mark Recchi, wrote a terrific article. Sammy, that was NHL.com, right?
Yeah, Dan
Correct.
Rosen.
Yeah, on Rick Tocchet.
Yeah, so I don't feel like we talked a ton about the whole Vancouver transition, and now what? Like, what's a win for the Canucks for the rest of the season?
You don't
Or
make a
Tocchet.
move like this halfway through to not try to win.
Right,
Right,
but
it's
you're going to
just-
trade guys to lose logically now, right? Like,
I think that Jimmy Rutherford has it in his mind that he can turn this thing around without sinking for 2 or 3 years.
can I just say that it doesn't reflect overly well on the Vancouver Canucks players that twice when they've changed the coach in the past 2 years, they've immediately been better? Like, I don't know. I know they played Chicago last night, so maybe I'm jumping the gun on that, but they outshot them 48-14. So is this a team when you're like, you can convince them to try, they're actually okay?
That's what Jimmy Rutherford's banking on.
Right. That is the implication here, that this group is just like, yeah, they get disinterested, but when they try, they're pretty good.
And we've never wavered on the fact that they are good enough to not sink to the bottom.
And you know what
They're
else?
just too good.
I feel
still.
like is underrated. Everyone's talking about the Canucks and tanking and Connor Bedard and all that. If you finish with the third worst record in the NHL, I think you have like a 9.5% chance of winning first overall, of getting the lottery ball for Bedard. And if you finish 11th worst, you have like a 3.5% chance. It's like 9-3. Like the chance is the same within a percent.
Didn't Gary Bettman talk about that the other day when he insinuated
wow.
that nobody tanks?
Which, you know, if you ever want people to think you're an honest person, don't say that.
Did he get that? Did he get that one from one of his focus groups that he does?
Yeah, we polled the fans and we found out.
They love the
Board
glitchy
ads.
board ads, and you know they love
No
hockey,
one
and
tanks.
they love it in Arizona where they can't sell out a game in a 5,000 seat state rink.
Yeah.
I heard some things.
It's like when people ask me, "Are you superstitious?" And I say, "No." But why take any chances?
I'm not superstitious, but let me just rub my belly and tap my head 3 times
That's what
before every show
tanking's all
starts.
about. It's
Yeah.
like I'm a competitive guy. You want to give me 1% more chance? I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I get that, but don't you think the good gleaned from like starting to win and guys learning the system and feeling like there's a strong core to build on, like that's more important than 1%?
Well, don't you think that? I'm just going back to what Bettman said because I think it's so absurd, and I want to dive into it. Does he means probably the players?
That no one's tanking.
That's no one's taking.
No, he's talking about coaches and owners and
He can't be talking about general managers. Can
He's talking about
He
everybody.
definitely
that's
is.
insane.
He has to make that claim
Yes, he does.
so the league looks like it has integrity.
There was an
and gambling
NHL
and-
team that traded for Peter Mrazek.
I love that that's the example you use. Not that other teams have traded good players willingly for nothing, essentially, trying to lose.
Didn't Peter Mrazek give up 6 goals and 8 shots at one point this year? I saw somewhere that he's let in like 68 goals and 15 starts or something. Like it's
And JB, you nailed it. If there wasn't so many gambling partnerships, I don't think Gary would even comment on it.
You have to say everyone's trying to win every night, or else your league doesn't have the
Well,
ability to be a gambled upon league.
that's the boring and correct answer.
The gambling one.
It is. That's why he said it.
Certainly a part of it.
No, I think it's the whole thing.
You know what makes me a little unwell is the willingness of like knowing you're saying something people don't believe because you're a lawyer and that's the thing that drives your business best. Like that makes me a little sick. Like he knows that we know that that's not the truth, but he's like, we agree to be in on this lie together, which we obviously don't. But like,
No, it's true.
I just hate that. It's gross.
And it's like, you know, the salary cap thing. That's not great for fans, but
It works
it works for the
Owners.
people that employ
our
him,
owners.
that
Yeah.
employ him. So it's the same thing.
Calling spades out here, boys.
Well, you know, there's some teams that, you know, are still finding ways, and I do believe that on some nights you can beat anybody still.
You can,
Arizona, all of
100%.
them. But you just can't make the playoffs. That's what you can't do.
Right. I think he said the Rangers have lost 8 games to non-playoff teams. The Leafs have lost to Montreal twice. Arizona's, you know who's messing up Arizona? Jacob Chikrin. He's playing well, and he's making them not as awful as they need to be. He's really helping them. They need to trade him. He's too good.
Yeah.
He's having a good year.
If they don't get what they want, I think they're going to keep him.
Because he's good and young, and that's good to have on your team.
We've been talking about how the Oilers were underachieving, and now they're getting super hot, and they're are they into the third place in the Pacific yet?
I think they're still in a wild card spot behind Seattle, LA.
They're 2 points
Vegas.
back of Seattle now for the last
and 3 points out of second and 4 points out of first.
To me, if you're Kenny Holland, you got to blow them away and get Chychrun.
Oh, I love that. I love that for them.
Yeah,
Right?
I would agree.
Like it's just it seems like such a perfect fit.
And
for
Joel
them.
Edmondson.
Well,
Edmonton, by the way, their next 8 games: Columbus, Chicago, Philly, Ottawa, Detroit.
Gets better.
It's soft schedule. They've won 6 in a row. Kane is back. I know he's missing 1 game, but I just bet on them today to win the Pacific Division. I think they're a better team than Vegas, Seattle, LA, Calgary too. Here they come. Zach Hyman, superstar.
Interesting story. Ethan Bear missing a game because his dog died.
Yep.
And, this is one of those stories where, you could see some people, I don't know if it's drawing a line to say, okay, where does it begin or end? And, Mark Spector has a really nice piece out on sportsnet.ca. If you get a chance to read it, it makes some excellent points on where we are as a society now. Mm-hmm. Whereas something like that years ago would just been unheard of. And you grew up with a dad who, you just spoke moments ago about Al Arbor, about just shut up and do what you're told.
Kelly
and
Rudy told a story about not being able to go to the birth of his daughter, because of Al Arbor.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a thing you did then.
Yeah.
So, it's related to what we talked to Recchi about, how things have changed.
Yeah. Now, does that just fall into, when we talk about, again, just society in general, there is a certain professional respect on mental health, and that's all a great thing. But as an entertainer or a professional athlete, is there more pressure than, say, someone that just goes to work in general when someone's spending $300 on a ticket to go watch you perform?
Yeah. So today is, I'm aware today is Mental Health Awareness Day for that company co-opted Let's Talk Day, which is great that we do that for mental health. And for Bear, it could be a combination of things. I know his fiance is getting ready to give birth to their first kid. Yeah. I know he was close to Gino Ojic, who recently passed. His dog passed. It's a lot. So if it's a mental health thing for him, for sure, you as a team, you just go, yeah, whatever you need. We need you to be well. On its own, isolated, part of it for me is that hockey's a physical sport. And we physically do. There's a war element where you go to battle for your teammates. You dive in front of pucks, block shots. You sacrifice yourself. Someone, scrap in a corner. You go get in a fight.
You get in literal fights.
You get in literal fights on the ice. Yes. And so there's this team element of being there for one another. And I think when a guy, it's got to be something serious to miss the game. And so, the conversation then is just, there's bereavement clauses for humans. Is it okay when it's a dog? And how, it's a tough one to talk about because you don't want to be insensitive to Bear and what he's going through because I don't know what he's going through. But if one of my teammates said, my dog died, I can't play tonight, I'd be like, okay.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's middle of January and I'm not even going to say the pun, but you said it earlier.
Wow.
Right?
Yes, it is.
It is the
cat days of
the cat days of the season.
Yes.
And it's a little easier for that to be looked upon.
Totally agree.
But let's go to a conference final or a Stanley Cup final, and perhaps he's emotionally wrecked. Will we have the same sympathy for him in May or June when everything's on the line as we would
probably
January?
Not, but probably he probably would play. That Spectre article is good. He talked about Ryan.
He probably would play. You're right.
Ryan Nugent Hopkins had a dog die between game 4 and 5 last year and played. And Spector made the point. He didn't play great. Could be related. You know, if it's going to affect the guy, do you want him in?
I would say yes. You'd rather take a chance on getting 70 or 80% out of him than nothing.
Yeah.
But
and if you
that
say
would
it
be,
doesn't
that
matter,
would be a selfish part of a coaching staff, a managerial staff, a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
There'd be a tremendous amount of pressure for him to go.
Yeah, and if you say it doesn't matter, he's the 6th D, it's game whatever. Well, he's paid $2.2 million, and I think if you're saying to him, if you're saying he doesn't matter, you got bigger problems. The team believes he matters. He does matter. He's an important piece of, to them. They've got him there for a reason. So it is. It's if it is mental health, you fully understand. If it's grief, you fully understand. People go through a lot of things, and we can't cast judgment on that. If it's just like I'm feeling sad because my dog died, that's
but it's also really unrealistic to think that no one's casting judgment, right?
No, I know.
That's what people do still.
Yes.
And they just have to do it a lot more quietly.
I just think there's a tactful way, and maybe I failed here today, but to have a conversation about what's too much. Like my cat died last year during our season, and I did our show. I was very sad.
Yeah.
But that is not to say that it's the same as what he's feeling in his grief, and trying to sort through that is
I know
what we're discussing.
But individually, you could look there and say, okay, it's one guy. What happens if 4 guys show up and their dog dies the same day? Do 4 guys not show up for work?
Where is it? Where is the line? Right.
And listen, I've had a dog for 12 years. Ours has diabetes. I'm giving it insulin shots 7:30 in the morning.
You have Wilford Brimley as a dog?
I have insulin shots at 7:30 at night.
Do you really?
I cannot go 15 minutes late. My wife will kill me. This guy.
What's your dog's name, Kyper?
Tucker.
Tucker?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Great handle.
The mother Tucker. As I refer to him.
E from Entourage, his dog's name is Gillies.
But I'm telling you, this guy is like family. Like he's my
he would be crushed.
I got rid of 3 kids.
Yeah, and he's got Louis
Lou dog, little wiener dog.
Yeah.
Love him to death.
I sent 3 kids to school, and now I got an infant named Tucker at home. But he's family. I get it.
Yes.
I get that emotional attachment.
Yeah.
For sure.
I actually get there'll be moments where I God forbid, picture the day that Lou dog croaks. And I'm like, oh, Jesus.
I get it.
It does.
For sure.
It does.
It's heavy.
The thought goes through your mind. You're like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
What the hell am I going to do?
Would you come to work?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
You got a dog?
I have had dogs. I do not currently have a dog.
No cat?
Both cats died within a week last year.
Oh, my God.
Because one got sad with the other one gone.
Bourne, that's heartbreaking.
Oh, it was awful.
That happens to old people a lot, too.
Yes. It was awful. My poor kids.
Terrible.
Anyway.
You guys want some some stats?
Are we done with death?
Yes. You guys want some stats from tonight?
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Save us. Play a yakety sax.
Get some life in this show, would you?
I'm just looking up tonight's stat pack. Willie Nylander. I wanted to find some stats.
How is he against the Rangers?
I don't have that in front of me, but I'm looking for. Nah, I'm lost it. This is perfect music for me right now. I had it in front of me, and I wanted to ask you a question. Oh yeah. So among players with a cap hit below $7 million this year, Willie Nylander's 56 points are tied for the 4th most in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys like to hazard a guess at the other?
Under
7 million.
Yes.
More equal to or just more than 56 points? Sorry.
It is. Yet there's 3 guys with more, and 1 guy who's tied with him.
Okay.
And
I've had this
they're all under
conversation
7.
With Sam, so I have some idea.
Kyper, do you know?
I said Pasternak.
Good one.
Number 1. He's making 6.6, and he has 69 points so far this year. Nice.
He's going to double that.
I don't know. I can't think.
There
Give me
is
some,
2 Edmonton Oilers on the list.
Oh, Nuge.
Yeah,
The
good one.
Nuge.
Yeah.
He's having a terrific year.
More points than Willie by 1. Yeah.
Having a really good year. He's got 57 points. He's making $5.125 million.
Oh, and your favorite player,
Lemieux.
Yes.
Tage Lemieux.
Lemieux.
Talk about value.
Well, his new contract kicks in next season. And it's a steal right now for Kevin Adams.
Well, it's a steal. It's whatever next year is. This year is the ultimate steal. He's making $1.4 million. He's got 66 points. Talk about value.
Value.
And where's Hyman?
Yeah,
He's
that's
tied
the
with
other one.
Willie.
He is tied with Willie.
He's got 56 points, fellas.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
I got
Good
another
stuff.
quiz for you. You ready?
This is great.
William Nylander looks to become the 6th player from the 24, like you read that earlier, for the 2014 draft to reach 400 career points. He was selected 8th overall by the Leafs in that draft. Can you name any of the other players that have 400 points in that draft?
This is like got to be the thing I'm worst at. Was Mikko Rantanen in there?
Nope.
A different year? That was Marner's year.
I don't even
I'm so
remember
bad
that
at
year.
draft years like thing.
Okay,
Who went first overall?
That'll actually help me with the who's in the draft.
Leon Draisaitl went 3rd overall.
It's
Right.
the
He's
Aaron
the number one.
Ekblad draft.
Yeah.
The what? Sorry,
Aaron
Ekblad
Ekblad.
draft. Does Ekblad have that many points?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm stumped. I can't
Yeah,
even think.
I'll read them to you.
Yeah.
So Leon Draisaitl has the most points from that draft
Yeah.
with 689 points. Pasternak 2nd. He was the 25th draft round. He was the 25th overall pick.
25.
Braden Point is 3rd with 417, and he was the 79th pick. 79 picks went by, and they're like, "Nah, I'll pass." What was going?
They thought he couldn't skate, eh?
Is that it? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah, they
knock.
thought-
I gotta tell you,
they-
being a
Guy flies
retro
around.
scout
I
is the
don't-
easiest thing in the world.
I think some had issues with his skating.
Wow. He skates pretty, gets around that pretty good out there to me.
Sam Reinhart, who was taken 2nd overall, has 415 points, which surprises me that he's that high.
Me too.
I think they've been very quiet.
Can I just say, I've just never been a big Reinhardt guy. He's fine.
Hate the way he wears his skates.
I think that's what it is for me. It's a gear thing. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Hate it.
I just always see him as a secondary guy.
Yeah. Which
Right?
is fine.
Yeah, but when you're that high of a pick,
You're hoping for a little more.
yeah.
And Dylan Larkin has exactly 400 points. And then Willie at 399 next. Pretty good draft.
Really good. Wow.
Yeah. A lot of good players coming out of
And a lot of those names up for new contracts.
that. Yeah, Dylan Larkin.
Larkin, we know, is a local kid in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And Stevie, I'm not sure he wants to give up the cash just yet towards him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do get playing hardball with Larkin because there is this thing where it's like he's from here and he's been good. The only guy who's been the trooper through our lean years,
Yeah.
But you don't want to back pay someone when you're trying to move forward. You like to pay him for what you expect him to be worth, right?
You don't have to go that far when it comes to Steve Yzerman trying to lock down a star.
Is it Stamkos?
Yes. And
Did pretty damn well.
but Steve had to take him right to the point where Stamkos is meeting the Toronto Maple Leafs before he came back.
Right.
Yeah, they had to
But
bring in
that-
the Canadian Tire guy to ruin everything, right?
That's almost Stamkos. Yzerman calling his bluff, though.
Did
Like,
that
go
happen,
see what you
Kipper?
can get.
What happened?
the Stamkos with the Canadian Tire guy was the mayor there. Is that true?
There was a sense that the Leafs wanted to explore Stamkos, knowing that they wanted to keep the cap number down, and the thought was that they were going to kind of make it up corporately.
And that's-
Showing him
that-
other ways that they
But
can
that's
pay him.
got to be some sort of circumvention, right?
That's an interesting point because
If you're like, hey, Canadian Tire, give this
how-
guy $2 million a year, we'll
listen,
give it to you in.
if I'm not mistaken, Connor McDavid has a deal with Rogers,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
right? So I mean,
Bet9,
no one's
MGM.
but no one's calling that circumvention.
Right. I guess his little chicken and egg sort of thing here. Like if you say, come, you're a star and this is a major market, we might have some good sponsorship opportunities for you. How express can you make that sort of commitment to someone, if you're able to raise a lot of money
Yeah.
for them? And then can you say to Canadian
Yeah.
Tire, hey, you don't have to pay for your board ads this year.
Now,
Just get, just
I
hook
don't
up
think
Stammer.
for a second that the Leafs were prepared at that time to offer Stamkos like $10 or $11 million.
What do you end up with?
and
8? 5?
8.5, if I'm not
8.5?
mistaken. Sammy, what's the cap friendly on Stamkos, who scored his 500th goal last week?
8.5
Yeah.
for this year and next. Then he's a free agent.
Yeah.
You know who else makes 8.5? Draisaitl. Those are nice contracts.
Yeah. Braden Point makes 9.5, which is a great contract.
And then they turned around, I
Same with
think,
Cooch.
a year later and gave Tavares 11.
Sounds right.
No, it wasn't the next
2 years? 2 years.
Yeah. So
okay, 2 years.
I was convinced that Stamkos was going to be a Leaf. Convinced.
Well, as you should have been. It was happening, right? Things were falling apart in Tampa. He was coming up here.
Yeah, and then Kyper, I remember that day he signed, and then the Subban.
Oh, and Taylor Hall.
Yeah.
Subban and Weber and Taylor Hall was all one day, wasn't it? When didn't you break one of those?
Like 1 hour.
I did. I broke the PK Subban for Shea Weber.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that?
Tell me.
That was the first ever show that JD Bunkus hosted on this station.
Really?
And that happened like 15 minutes before that show.
It's a pretty good show to launch.
It's tough,
and
though.
I booked Kyper on the show.
No way.
And I texted him. He didn't know who the hell I was at that point, but I texted him and he came on the show with JD Bunkus on his first ever. I'm sure if you wanted to ever torture Mr. Bunkus, you could play that back for him. But yeah, it's a funny little.
I was at a Muskoka cottage.
And I'm
I had
texting.
horrible reception.
Were you shoveling snow up there, like eating a hot dog on the?
It was July.
Okay.
Oh, it's funny.
Or no, yeah, a week before the training camp, or not, free agency. It was just before because PK Subban's contract kicked in. I think a no move going in.
Yeah. So it all had to happen
Right,
all
and
at
they
that
had
moment.
they had to trade him before I think July 1st.
You know, if you're Bunk, like your first show, you got plans. You've been planning.
Oh, we had it like locked down.
You know,
to like
you're not ready to be nimble.
No,
at
that's
that
crazy.
One more note on Stamkos going down there and making 8.5, which like is still equivalent to 10.5 here.
Yeah, I think you're
Right?
late on that.
11 maybe.
Exchange is gross right
So,
now.
not to sound like Sammy and all his Leaf Nationers here, but there's a huge advantage for Tampa Bay with no state tax and cost of living and running as if they've got a $100 million salary cap.
I think they should index the salary cap based on income tax in the state. You should say we're a zero income tax state, so you guys are more attractive for people. You know, you play in Montreal, you get a higher cap than everyone else.
Here's a great what if with 4 minutes left in the station. Would the Leafs have been better off with signing Stamkos and not Tavares? Would they have gone deeper now than they have?
They would have $2.5 more million if you'd signed for 8.5. But Tavares is a center.
If you're asking me,
Yeah.
would I rather have today Steven Stamkos
today,
and
yes.
John Tavares? Yes, I would.
Tavares has had some pretty good years here.
Yeah, yes, no
You know?
doubt.
Would you trade right now Tavares for Stamkos?
Yes.
You, Sammy?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're all
But,
in agreement.
but contracts are a part of that. You know, if I had to have Stamkos for $11 million or Tavares at 8.5, I think I want Tavares. So money's involved in that decision for me. I would want Stamkos' contract as much as anything.
that makes sense because that's you're talking about almost a top 4 defenseman,
Big swing.
right?
Yeah, for a capped up team.
So that's not the trade I asked you for.
I know. I twisted it.
True or false? The Maple Leafs have not been shut out this season, and they were not shut out all of last season. True or false?
False.
True.
True.
They have the longest active streak of consecutive games without being shut out. 111 games, and next closest is 57. Going against Shesterkin tonight.
Oh, boy, you did it. You jinxed it.
I think I might end their streak.
Incredible.
I don't know. We had Valley on.
Says he lets up a stinker every game.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there you go. No shutout.
Okay. Me and Bourne both bet on Morgan Riley to score a goal tonight.
We did. And I'm going to bet Morgan Riley to score a goal until it pays me. There's 34 games left. That might cost me $340.
Like I am not. I don't gamble.
Okay.
So
for free, you do on the Next Rewards app.
I do.
Which
yes.
Kyper owns, of course.
Yes. Yes. And NHL hockey's coming.
Yes.
Ooh,
is it?
exciting.
Yeah.
Nice.
So download it. Use my code Kyper19, and I'll give you 250 points towards your free cup of coffee.
Damn near there already.
So you go on a website and just put down $5 for Morgan Riley to score. It's that simple.
Yep. Plus 600. I bet $10 on it. That would pay me $60
if he scores tonight.
if he scores. Yeah.
Or you lose 10.
And I'm going to lose 10 tonight and tomorrow night and the next night and every night until he scores.
Do you want to just give me $10 every day? I'm fine with that too. That's awesome. I'm excited for tonight. It's going to be a good game.
When I go to the racetrack and the teller gives me my ticket already ripped up.
Just so you don't need this.
Yeah.
Off-track betting. Fun time.
So, looking at the weather out the window, Kipper,
Yeah.
are you going to the game tonight?
I am, yeah.
Attaboy. It's
You know
Rangers
what?
leaves. It's 2-year alumni. You got to go.
The New York Rangers have got a suite for all ex-Rangers.
You're going as a Ranger tonight?
in the area.
We've really betrayed
Yeah.
the show. I went as an Islander one night, and you're going as a Ranger tonight. We really messed up.
So
We'll wear leaf hats in
who's
your
going?
show.
Can you divulge who's going or no?
I think in the area we've got Adam Graves, Glenn Healy,
Gartner?
Mike Gardner. Maybe. And again, the weather's bad here, so
Yeah.
I'm hoping to see some of my buddies. I hope people are safe on the road regardless, and everybody comes and goes as safely as possible.
Yeah, it's greasy out there. Everybody, if you're listening, drive safely, please. and thank
Austin
you.
Matthews, first 22 games, boys. He had 21 points. Last 24 games, 32 points.
Is he going to heat up now?
Oh, yeah. We're rolling now. His goals per game is way up. Points per game up from 0.95
Okay, boys,
to 1.3.
let me hear it. Prediction time.
I'm going to say a 3-2 Toronto Maple Leafs win
That was the exact score I had in my head.
with a Morgan Riley
Give
game
me,
winner.
give me
Okay.
the empty netter just so I'm different. 4-2.
I'll go Rangers 3-2 then, just to balance it out.
All right. Looking forward to chatting.
Really looking forward to this game tonight.
Hey.
Big, fast, strong team like the Rangers. Huge challenge for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Quick, before we go.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Barry Trotz on the show, if you're looking forward to that.
Oh, Barry Trotz.
Wow.
And tune into Leafs Talk after the game tonight. And if you're in the golf mood, little Patrick Reed versus Roy McIlroy, me and Gunning recorded a golf show pod today. Find
Golf
it on
guys.
iTunes.
Our
Great show.
thanks to Steve Valiquette, Kristen Shilton from ESPN, and Mark Recchi, Stanley Cup champion and Hall of Famer. Enjoy your night. Stay safe, everybody. And we're back tomorrow. Real Kyper and Bourne. Thanks for joining us.